Hi BG soulmates, welcome and welcome back again to my channel. I am Grace, and in today's video I'll be making this really cute and simple beginner friendly camisole, and I made it in two different colors, this solid color and the print color. So if this is something you're interested in, then please stay and watch, and without any further ado, let's just jump right into the video. So we're going to start off by placing the lining piece and the main fabric pieces together, the neckline having right sides facing each other. Then you're just going to pin it down and sew from one shoulder seam to the other shoulder seam. So now that you're done sewing it, the next step is to create notches around, and the reason why you do that is because if you don't create the notches around, when you turn this right side out, it's just going to have a weird looking neckline. So to prevent that, we create notches round, and you could see that when I tried flattening it, it couldn't flatten well, but after creating the notches, see what it looks like. It can fold or bend well. So now that that is done, you're going to understitch the lining to the seam allowance. So after understitching the lining to the seam allowance, I went ahead to trim off the seam allowance, and this part is optional. I did this because my fabric was somewhat transparent, right, and I didn't want the seam allowance showing. And I also prefer this to prevent bulkiness too. So after trimming off the seam allowance, this is what you'll have. So now the next step is to sew the front and the back together, but prior to doing that, you're going to just iron the neckline. You're pretty much going to iron it with each step you take, just to have a neat look. So now that that is done, you're going to open the shoulder seam like so. So you have both the lining and the main fabric right side facing upwards. Then the next step is to open the back as well. Then you're going to align the shoulder seam, the seam line between the shoulder, the main fabric and the lining together for the front and the back. So what I'm doing is I'm going to start off by pinning the center first, as you can see me do that. After pinning the center, I'm going to pin the rest down, and I'm going to sew it using a half an inch. So I pinned it and just made sure that it was looking neat and well aligned before pinning the rest down. Okay, after I'm done trimming it, this is what I'll have, and I'm just going to go ahead to just fold this like so, and it prevents having any bulkiness there. Then you iron it down. So now we're going to sew we're going to close up the sleeves, and in this video I'll be showing you two different methods. So the first method I'll be showing is this method right here called the burrito method. So what you're pretty much going to do is to roll one side of the top to the other side of the shoulder line or shoulder seam. Then you're just going to open it up like so. So you have the lining piece and the main fabric piece open as shown in the video, so that way you have the right sides facing upwards. Then you're going to sandwich the other side in between, and before I pin it, I will make sure I pin the sandwiched fabric to the fabric to prevent it from moving around, and so that I don't end up sewing it as well. So after I'm done pinning that, then the next step is to pin the armhole area. And you're going to start off by pinning the shoulder line first, then you pin the rest down. After doing that, you're just going to sew it from one armhole to the other armhole using a half an inch seam allowance, making sure that you do not sew the other fabric sandwiched in between them. Okay, so after doing that, you're just going to create notches around the curve like so. After doing that, you're just going to pull out remove the pins. Then you're just going to pull out the fabric that was sandwiched in between. So this part might be a bit stressful, if I'm being honest, but it is totally worth it. So this is what it looks like. So the next step is to just iron this down, then understitch the lining to the seam allowance. So I'm pretty much showing you what you do. You're just going to understitch the lining there. So for the next method, what we're going to do is we're going to pin the shoulder seam for the front, for the main fabric and the lining in place first. Then after pinning it, you're going to open one side of the armhole and have the other side sandwiched in between that, as you can see in the video. Then you pin it down. So after you pin it down, you're going to sew it using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, making sure you do not sew the sandwiched fabric to this. So after sewing it, you're just going to create notches around the curve before pulling this out. Okay, so we're going to pull it out, and you're pretty much going to repeat the same step to the other side of the armhole. Pretty much the same thing. Okay, then after you're done doing that, so you're pretty much going to just sandwich the sewn area in between the unsewn area and just sew it down in place. After doing that, you're just going to create notches around the curve, and you're going to understitch the lining to the seam allowance. Then after that, the next step is to sew the side seams together. So what I'm going to do is to align them at the armhole first. Then after aligning them at the armhole, it makes it easier for me to pin the rest down and sew. Okay, so after sewing it down, I'm going to go ahead to trim off the bulky area there. So after trimming it off, I'm going to turn this out. Then after doing that, the next and the last step is to hem the top. So you're going to fold it first and fold it again, and on each fold you're going to fold it using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so as usual, I like to pin the side seams first before I start folding the rest. So for this particular one, I decided to baste it. You could decide to pin it down, it really doesn't matter, but I decided to just baste mine. So after basting it, this is what you'll have, and you can easily go ahead to just sew this down on your sewing machine. Alright, now that we are done sewing, this is the final result and I absolutely love it. It's such a simple and breezy outfit to wear. So if it is something you are interested in, then the link to the pattern is going to be in the description box for you to check out, and I hope you enjoy making this pattern. So thank you so much, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.